The Interdisciplinary Studies program in John Jay College is pleased to welcome you to the fifth of our lecture series, The Legacy of Brown v. Board of Education in the Ongoing Struggle for Justice. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker tonight, and I promise this is not going to be a very long introduction. It could have been a lot longer. In 1963, I attended the historic March on Washington, which featured Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. I've heard that speech many times since, but my memory of that day does not include that speech. Instead, it is filled with the memories of the many songs that were sung from the base of the Washington Monument before the march began and from the Lincoln Memorial during the rally. Of particular significance for me was the song Blowin' in the Wind, sung that day by Peter, Paul, and Mary, the group that brought that song to national attention earlier in the summer of 1963, 2 years after the poet Bob Dylan penned it in 1961. Peter Yarrow is the Peter from the group, and he has continued to lend his voice and immense talent to the struggle for social justice from that day to this day. A struggle that is at the centerpiece of John Jay's very reason for being. Thus, it is fitting that John Jay College's lecture series, A Legacy of Brown in the Ongoing Struggle for Justice, feature a second visit to the college by our brother in struggle, Peter Yarrow. I could waste a lot of time going over his many achievements, but I think I would prefer to quote from his website to demonstrate that he has brought his participation in the ongoing struggles for justice up to the present, building on the great legacies of the civil rights and other struggles from the time of Brown forward. His most recent project, and I quote, is based on his passionate belief that music, with its power to build community and catalyze change, can be a particularly powerful organizing tool as a source of inspiration for all of us, especially children. In 1999, he founded Operation Respect, and I'm quoting again, which disseminates a program, a free program, utilizing music and video, along with curricular materials designed to establish a safe, compassionate, and nurturing environment in both schools and summer camps across the U.S. Operation Respect's classroom-based programs, Don't Laugh at Me, DLAM, is available free to teachers, parents, and all educational advocates through the generosity of the McGraw-Hill Company. You can actually find it on the website www.operationrespect.org. It's utilized in over 20,000 schools in the U.S. and internationally. It's been hailed by the educational community as a key response to the challenge of bullying and many forms of physical and emotional violence among children and youth. John Jay is proud to welcome a man whose entire life is devoted to showing the integral role of music in the never-ending struggle for justice. Peter Yarrow.
Well, I am proud to be here, and I have spoken to students previously at your professor's behest. And this will be a little bit different from other presentations. And I think that there are a few people who could talk to you about the role of music and the social change and political consciousness in the nation, but few who have this long an arc of involvement with the efforts. When I was there at the March on Washington in 1963, Paul and Mary and I were introduced by Ossie Davis, who is a performer. How many of you have heard of Ossie Davis? Okay, good. He's a terrific African-American artist, and he was kind of the host for the event. And before he went up, he said, "What would you like me to say?" And that, what I wanted him to say has a lot to do with why I'm here and and the topic that we're discussing. What do you think I might have asked him to say? Here we are, there are 250,000 people. There was a lot of fear before we got there about whether or not it was going to be, there was going to be danger, whether there was going to be fighting, whether there was going to be people there who were trying to destroy what we were creating. And that was standard for demonstrations of note, that there were people there, agitators, who were given the task of trying to make something that had a wonderful intention turn into something that was anything but wonderful. And here we were. We had not yet heard Martin Luther King's speech. There were a lot of performers who were sitting there, both, as your Professor Michael has indicated. I know you don't call him Michael, but I do, because we're friends. And there was a staging area before the march took place, where there was singing. And then at the march, Peter, Paul, and Mary got on the stage, and we were going to sing 2 songs, one called If I Had a Hammer, and the other Blowing in the Wind. Blowing in the Wind had just peaked on the charts the week before. If I Had a Hammer had been a big hit in America, and everybody knew it. How many of you know If I Had a Hammer? Raise your hands. How many of you think you might know If I Had a Hammer if I sing a bit of it? How many of you don't care whether you know it or not, you just want to hear me sing it rather than talk? Okay. How many of you know Blowing in the Wind? Raise your hands. How many of you know who Bobby Dylan is? Raise your hands. Ah, a lot more people know Bobby Dylan's name than know Blowing in the Wind. It is his most famous and important song in many ways. And it was the song that introduced him to the vast American public. Okay, back to the issue at hand. Here you are. You're a singing group. You're going to be singing a song that is meant to inspire and reach people in a particular way, so that they will gather their hearts together and commit to doing something in the face of grave, horrific injustice in our country. And Ossie Davis, the great actor, married to Ruby Dee, who is still alive. Ossie died a very few years ago. Comes to you and he says, "What do you want me to say in the introduction? What would you suggest? If you don't answer, if somebody doesn't answer me right in the next 10 seconds with an idea, I'm leaving the room, and that's the last you're going to see with me. 1, 2, you can raise your hands. What would you say? You could say, welcome, Peter, Paul, Mary. You could say anything. The point is that you have to open your mouth and participate, or I am going, and that will be the nature of this exchange for a long period of time. There are a lot of people who will talk to you, and they don't care if you talk. I have no interest in talking to you if you don't talk. Yes, darling. Yes.
I would say whatever you feel like.
Say whatever you feel like saying. Oh, that's good. Actually, that's not a bad thing to say to people who are going to introduce you. But I didn't say that. What did you think?
Hi, my name's Peter.
Hi, my name's Peter.
This is Peter, Paul, and Mary.
No, well, he's going to introduce us.
No, this is Peter, Paul.
This is Peter, Paul, Mary. All right. Who else has an idea? What would you think? See, I'm not asking you to regurgitate information. I'm not interested in you remembering anything that I say. What I'm interested in is your getting you to think. You're about to make an introduction. You're about to have an introduction made of you before 250,000 people, most of them African American. The time is at that era, if you're in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, it was then and it is now, the reality is that you cannot use a public water fountain unless it says for colored only. You cannot go to a bathroom, a public bathroom, unless it says for colored only. Your brothers and sisters in Georgia and Mississippi cannot vote. They can be lynched. And no, there will be no legal repercussions. And there is a theater called Constitution Hall, and a great opera singer is not allowed to sing there because she's black. Okay? That's what's going on. That's the situation in our country. And we're standing there, and we thought we should be frightened, maybe, but it turns out we're not. There's just love all around us, the most amazing kind of love. And in the midst of this, you're a singer, and you're about to go up there, and the person comes and says, "What would you like me to say before you sing?" Yes.
How about to say this is my friend, because that automatically just shows people that you can do it. It's okay.
Okay, that's it. She said, how about saying, "This is my friend," because that would show that a person of color and a person with white skin are friends in that era. That's certainly a very good thing. So in one way, you want the tone to honor our presence there. At the time, you may not know this, but there were many people who were Caucasian, who were involved in the civil rights movement, very deeply involved. And there was a great partnership between particularly Jews and people of color. In fact, the civil rights acts were signed in the Religious Action Center of the Union of American Hebrew Congregations, called RAC, the RAC, Religious Action Center. Okay, so that's a good start. Somebody else, what would you say? I need you all to think now. Think, what would you like somebody to say so that when you get up there, yes, my brother?
Just thinking from the point of view of being a white person and talking to Ollie Davis, I would have told him that I wanted him to introduce our group as part of the struggle, and the best way he could, from his point of view as a man of color.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I have. The suggestion was that he would introduce us as part of that he should be introducing us as part of the struggle, as a black man to a white group, saying, "You're here," and recognize that we were part of the struggle. Exactly. That's exactly the point. Because if we just get introduced and say, "Oh, here are some people to sing a song for you," well, that's not, then you're external to the event. Then, oh, let's take an entertainment break. But we weren't there to be entertainment. We were there because we were committed to this struggle, deeply committed. Mary, when she was growing up, she had songs sung to her by Paul Robeson. It was a very, very famous African American who was a genius. He was an athlete, he was an actor, he was a singer. How many of you have heard of Paul Robeson? Okay, those of you who have not, Google him, because you will be amazed at what he did. He was very left-wing, as were we. Paul and Mary and I, left-wing mean very progressive. That means we believed that there should be fairness. That's what left-wing was. You think, oh, you're a commie, oh yeah, you think that we should have greater equality so that the distance between the haves and the have-nots is not humongous like it is today? Oh, you must be a commie. Perhaps you want a little justice. Have you ever heard the term justice? Justice is not just something that's a matter of law. It's a matter of something in the heart. We were there for something, for a kind of justice that was essential. Not just justice in the law, but justice in the sense of equity and fairness. That's why we were there. Thank you. What is your name?
Antonio Patterson.
Antonio. Can we have a little applause for Antonio? That's exactly the point. So I told him, because I didn't want them to just say, oh, you're Peter, Paul, Mary, and of course you know Peter, Paul, Mary had a big hit with this song or that song. No. I said, Ozzy, introduce us, say, now we have a group of singers who've come to you to share musically what this whole march is about. See, so we wanted to be identified as part of the struggle. And when we were presented, therefore, if you go and you can Google us singing, you'll see Ozzy say those very words. And then we sang. And when people heard us sing, what do you think they did? Yes.
I assume that they sang along or maybe held hands during that time.
You're right on both counts. They sang along in the song "If I Had a Hammer," which is an up song, an energy song, and in "Blowing in the Wind," they held each other's hands up high like that. Again, you look at the television coverage, and you'll see them doing that, and it was amazing. Now, what is it? Let me sing one of the songs with you, at least part of it. I'm going to ask you to sing the chorus. I know you're. How many of you have sung in class before? In this class? In this class? Okay, so it's not usual, right? How many of you are a little shy about singing? Raise your hands. How many of you are shy to raise your hands? Raise your hands. All right, here is the song. Now, when I hit the words that you think epitomize, specifically hit the nail on the head of why we were there together, raise your hand. Don't raise it like this. Not like that. That's not acceptable. Raise it like that. And I'll know that you have hit that. Now, if you think it's hitting the nail on the head, it goes like that. If you say, that relates to why we're here, okay, then you go like that. And if you don't think that it's specifically relating to it, don't raise your hand at all. So listen to the words, and this is the song, one of the two songs we sang. And this is the one where they held each other's hands, and they went back and forth like that. They hadn't figured out what that meant yet, so that wasn't what was happening, all right? This is a song written by Bob Dylan that was made popular. Now you come over here and you sit in these, no. You don't sit over there, no. You sit over here. You come join the other people. There you go. We're waiting for you because I'm going to sing a song and I need for you to be seated. There you go. Okay, thank you. Here we go. For those of you who don't know what we look like, Paul and I had goatees like yours. Stand up, show us your goatee. Yes, that's a goatee. Turn around so they can all see, okay? That's right.
But you were a lot thinner.
That's right. I was a lot thinner. But I didn't eat as well as you guys are eating at the time. And Mary was the most beautiful woman you could imagine, but she was a woman who said what she felt and thought, and she was a role model for young women who were growing up at the time, who didn't have any idea that they could be straight, tell the truth, and gain power by just being determined. Women were not supposed to do that. They were supposed to be subservient. They were supposed to get married and say, I promise to love, honor, and obey my husband. How many of you would like to get married and say, I'd like to honor and obey my husband? Raise your hands if that's something you'd like to do, that you'd like to obey your husband. Well, can you believe it? That, see, in the struggle of women for equality and justice, justice meaning fairness, at the time, women were told, you can be a librarian, you can be a teacher, you can be a nurse, you can be a school teacher, pretty much, and that's about it. But don't try and be a leader. Don't try and be the head of a company. Don't try and be somebody who competes with men. And the way you get your power is use your feminine wiles. Get guys to say, oh, she's so pretty, let's do this for her. No, Mary said, do not do that. So that's who Mary was. And she was very beautiful. She had blonde hair, and she used to whip it around like that when she would sing. And everybody would say, holy Gaddafi, or something like that. Here it goes. Here's the song. Remember, you're raising your hand when something relates. How many roads must a man walk down before they call him a man? I'm sorry, your teacher is inappropriate now. How many seas? It does, but it's far-fetched. How many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? How many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Now this is how I'm going to teach you the chorus. The words are, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. But I'm going to do it the way we did it at Occupy Wall Street. Okay? Because we didn't have any mics. Somebody would say, mic check, and everybody would answer, mic check. Let's try it. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
I would like you
To
know the words
know the words
of the chorus of this song.
of the chorus of this song.
They are
The
answer, my friend,
answer, my friend,
is blowing in the wind.
is blowing in the wind.
The answer
The answer
is blowing in the wind.
is blowing in the wind.
Okay. Now this time, I want you just to say it with me. Don't sing it. Okay? You'll see. I'm doing it while I play the guitar. We're saying it together. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. I want to see all your mouths moving. Say it again. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Some of you now try singing it. The rest of you keep saying it. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Once again, everybody saying or singing it. The answer, my friend, is The answer is blowing in the wind. Going to the second verse. How many years can a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Now all your hands should be up. How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? How many years can people of color be allowed to live in this country and not be free? That went right to the heart of it. Okay, I'm going to sing that line again, and at the end of it, all your hands, especially yours, are going to go up completely high, unless you've fallen asleep, in which case you're excused, okay? It's okay. If you fall asleep, don't raise your hands, okay? How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Good, how many times? How many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? Together, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Let me hear you sing it out a little louder now. The answer is blowing in the wind. In the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? How many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? Are you listening to the words? How many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? Who would the people be in this case that they're referring to? Yes. African Americans, exactly. Pardon me? Yeah, that's true. That's now. But at the time and at this march, the consciousness was focused really solely on people of color who were of African American descent, because there was the legacy of slavery in our country. This was not just, prejudice against gays or opportunities shut down for Chicanos or women, who were unequal, but unequal rights, unequal pay, and not even been voting for a long time. But how many, all thinking of it in terms of the 250,000 people who would gather there, the cries of people of color from slavery, when the people of color were property in this country, the horror of that thought. Although there were slaves, that Jews were slaves in Egypt, and slaves existed a long time. When you conquered a country, you could make those people your slaves. That was the way it used to be in the good old days. Okay. Before there, how many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? And how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died. Together the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Let me hear you now. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. The answer, look at me, is blowing. When you see my lips move, make your lips move in sync with mine. Here we go. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. A little louder. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Now you applaud. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to think again. What is the difference between my having asked you to sing with me and what might have occurred if I had just asked you to listen to me sing this song? What is the difference? Yes.
Emotionally, or
Hang on, do it again. Hang on.
by singing with you, you allow us to engage with you emotionally, to understand exactly the time period. Obviously, that was in the 60s, so, it's been over 50 years. So it will be hard for us to really engage emotionally with that time period unless we probably could sing with you, understand the words fully.
And then actually, exactly, give this man an A. Because, you see, if you can get your heart into it, if you're just watching me do something, I mean, it may move you. I mean, you can be moved by a song watching somebody sing it. This is not American Idol, my friends. But I, at that time, along with Paul and Mary, wanted people to know in their hearts that there was this connection between the words and what we were singing. So indeed, that's the difference. But there's another difference. What's the difference between my singing it to you and your singing it together with me? I want somebody who's not answered yet. There are no wrong answers. And if anybody laughs at somebody who gives an answer because you think it's a funny answer, you're going to answer to me, and I'm a big guy, so just watch out. All right? No being amused by somebody's, because any answer that doesn't make any sense gets us to the place that makes sense. Why? What is the difference between my just singing to you? Okay, you all be quiet, and I'm going to sing. Yes. Pardon me? Exactly. This way, you can be in harmony with each other and in harmony with me. And if you do that, something extraordinary happens. That's amazing. That has fueled the movements for many, many decades. What happens if you know that you are in harmony? What happens? What's different? Yes.
Then you know that you're not alone. You understand that you are not alone.
Exactly. Then you're not alone. Perfect. Give her an A. I'm talking an A. A little applause. You know you're not alone. If you're just standing there and you're listening, you are alone in your response. But if you're singing together, you say, hey, I'm connected to these other people. They're feeling something I am feeling. And not only that, it makes you feel that you have helped to create that moment. If I'm just singing alone, you could say, oh, Peter, that was wonderful. I love it when you sing songs. But if you've created the moment with me, inside yourself, you say, hey, that moment belongs to me too. And that's what happened. Because when we sing a song together, we connect emotionally, as you said. We know we're not alone. We feel in harmony with each other, and we feel that we have power. Because if you want to change something, to turn injustice into justice, you need to feel that you can make a difference. If you say, I can't make a difference, you wake up in the morning and say, I don't know what to do. This world is all screwed up and I don't know what to do. But if you say, I do know what to do, I can make a difference, then all of a sudden you can be part of changing the world to make it a fairer, better place. And that's what everybody at this march felt. And one of the reasons was that the music allowed them to feel connected to each other's hearts and empowered. And that has been the case for all this period of time. So we've just shared something that lets you actually experience what it feels like to be empowered. If I were to say to you when you walk in the room, okay, everybody, let's march on the administration building. This is nonsense. We're doing this. Look, that's what they've been doing in Ukraine, right? I've been in Ukraine in the past couple of years 3 times, and I'm very worried about these people. But they felt empowered. This guy, Yanukovych, was a thug, a cruel, mindless thug, part of the mafia. And they stood up to him. It's very dangerous now. How do you think they got their hearts together? They felt empowered. They said, we can do this. Okay, now I want you to sing, The Answer is Blowing in the Wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. Okay? With me. I want you to sit up straight. Up straight. Here we go. Just singing the chorus together. And when I ask you to sing it more softly, do it more softly. If I ask you to sing it loudly, sing it loudly. But do it together and listen to each other. Listen to the sound that you're making. Here we go, softly. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Now sing it much, much louder. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. And when you sing that, you're saying, yes, we can do this. You see? And when you're saying, the answer, softly, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. That's the way we sang it at Andrew Goodman's gravesite. We were asked to come there and sing by his mother. Who was Andrew Goodman? Does anybody here know who he is? You know because you know. You know because you know. Yes, the gentleman in front of you, yes. Yes, wait a second, wait. Pass over this microphone to this gentleman who knows, who's got the answer. Perfect.
He traveled to the south in 1963 with another 2 guys from New York City to support the struggle, and he was killed by
Ku Klux Klan.
right.
By the organization. And not until actually a couple of years ago was anybody ever brought to trial for this murder. There are 3 of them. One of them was black, James Chaney, and there was Andrew Goodman. Goodman,
Meredith?
Michael Schwerner, and Goodman, Chaney, and Schwerner. And they went down there to register blacks to vote. So, because one of the main issues was that blacks were not empowered to vote. So if you can't vote, you can't change a policy. If you can vote, you could say, well, we're going to put people in office who are going to say that young black children should be able to get an education along with white children. The other huge issue was whether or not black children and white children could go to school together. Because if you kept these kids separate, you could have the black kids disenfranchised and not given a good education. That was a way of suppressing them, so that black people they would be kept in place and they would not become competitive with whites, and it was a way of assuring that they would be inferior because they were not given equal opportunities. So it was oppression. But if we could come, and the third issue was jobs, because it was a march for jobs and civil rights, so that there could be economic possibility for people of color. I mean, to you, this is ancient history. To me, this is yesterday. Now, why would we be singing the words? What do you think it meant? Remember, this was the first song that brought Bob Dylan to the American public. It had reached number 2 on the charts. Everybody knew it. And it was saying these words. It wasn't saying, the treasure of love is easy to find. It was not about, teenage dating behavior. They tried to tell us we're too young. No, it was not about shrimp boats is a-coming. All of a sudden, there was a music of conscience. And it appeared on the horizon, and it became very much a part of these efforts, of the struggle for equity and fairness and a better country. Why do you think the chorus is, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind? Nobody knows what it means. Bobby has never discussed that, but I've sung it 1,000, 5,000, 20,000 times, and I have my thought. So there's no wrong answer. What do you think that means? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. Yes?
I think it's
Wait a second. We want you to have the microphone. It will be passed down to you with great rapidity and love. There it is. It's a loving microphone.
It is. It's lovely. I think it's something like the truth is out there. Like the answer will come to you. You just have to put yourself out there. You can't get the answer if you're indoors.
That's right. You cannot, you have to make your self-accessible. The answer is all around us. Give that girl an A. Hear that? That's right. All right, little applause, little applause. What else might it mean? It could mean many things. Yes. No, somebody who hasn't answered. I want to see everybody here saying something before. Yes, over here.
It could be that that people are talking out there, so it's like it's blowing in the wind, so it's going from person to person.
That's right. There is something going on around. There people are talking about this. They're feeling that. Listen, folks. Something is changing. Get in tune with what's going on. Open your heart. Open your mind. Listen with your ears. What else might it see? Somebody else who has not answered before. What else could it mean? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
Thank you. When there are seeds that are going to be landing in various places, they're either brought there by birds or insects or something else, but the other way, more commonly probably, is seeds that blow in the wind. Seeds representing knowledge and ideas and that kind of thing.
Right, that the seeds of change are all around us. And if we let Let the wind blow them to us. We open our hearts, we will hear them. The answer is all around us. It's within our hearts, yes. It's about what?
I feel like when he's saying that the answer is blowing in the wind, he's talking about American flag. How you say flag?
It could be that the American flag is calling to us. That's a very good idea.
To show the entirety of the nation.
When you see the wind moving the flag, you say it is calling to us. That's what David Halberstam thought about. He was a great journalist who died a few years ago. When he heard Mary singing 500 Miles, he said, "You hear that yearning in her voice? She is yearning for a better time. She is yearning for for what you're referring to as the possibility of coming home to what we should be, what our hearts should be about." That's true. So, now, what's the difference? Let's sing "The Answer, My Friend, is Blowing in the Wind" softly, and then loudly together. Here we go. The answer, my friend, with me, look at my lips. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Now a little louder, here we go. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. So what's the difference in the intention of these two? The first one soft and the next one louder. What do you feel internally is different about those two? Somebody who has not answered before. Yay, go for it. She's going to give you the microphone. All your answers have been wonderful, yes.
I think the internal, saying it softly, is, I guess, kind of reminding yourself what you believe in. And when you get loud, it's like, now I need everybody to hear me.
Yeah, that's right. The eternal one is saying, let us gather our feelings together and let's believe in this together. And the other one is saying, okay, let's do it. You know, so one is the way we sang it at Andrew Goodman's grave when they installed his tombstone. And the second one is saying, okay, we're out here and we are going to make this change. So you see, the dimensions of singing together can be varied and they can empower you and bring you forward in various ways. Okay, now sing it yourselves. I want to hear you sing The Answer, my friend. Sing it however you want. Here we go. I'll start you. The answer. I want everybody doing this. Come on. They don't pay me to do this. I'm doing this because I believe in something I want to share with you. Honor my presence by giving of yourself, okay? Here we go. The answer, my friend. That's better. Here we go. Is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Now softly. What is that sound? Listening to that sound. What is that sound? Is that the sound of anxiety, of anger? Is that the sound? What is that the sound of when you hear that sound? Of you guys singing together. Do one more time. Think, what is that the sound of? Okay, here we go. Ready? Everybody's lips. You can say it or sing it. Try saying it first. The answer, my friend, is blowing So you have to say it now. Here we go. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Okay, do it yourself. Say it yourselves. Say it. The answer. Now singing together, here we go. The answer is blowing in the wind, is blowing again. So what is that sound? What do you think that sound was when I heard people singing it there? 250,000 people. Was that the sound? It's not unlike this sound, but there are a few more people. You don't have 250,000 people. What was that the sound of? Yes.
It probably sounds like the sound of change, of unity, of everybody coming together and singing together. It probably was such an amazing feeling of just peaceful harmony.
Absolutely. Very well said. It was all those things. It was such a sound that you could feel it. If you could just get yourselves to sing a little more, in a little more focused fashion, you would feel it, and you would get that from it right here. You wouldn't say, "Oh, I have to look at the tape to see it." You'd feel it right here, because every time I sing, almost every time I sing, that happens once again, and people feel that, and well, guess what happens? They say, "Hey, this struggle is not over. We are still doing this," and that's what singing like this does. I'm trying to explain to you what the place of music is in the struggle for justice and how that relates to Brown versus Board of Education and the Civil Rights Movement. If you'd understand that, not to talk about it, but to experience it, all you have to do is sing or talk with me and you'll hear it. Yes, somebody else. What is that the sound of?
I see it more of as assuring, because when everybody was singing together, it sounds like to me assuring that even when everybody's singing together, is that everything's gonna be all right, and knowing that there's power in unity and there's harmony in singing.
Exactly. It is assuring each other that we are together and that we are empowered to make this sound. If we can make this sound and we can feel together, we can hang together. And we were able to hang together from that time when we never even dreamed there could be an African-American president to a time in which we have one. And that unanimity of spirit is part of empowering our ability to be able to go forward and make a more just country and land. And that is really what music is able to help happen. And there was somebody else with an answer over here. What does that sound to you? Thank you. Thank you for your answers.
Hopefully I don't get you upset.
Tell me your name first.
Madeline.
A little closer to you.
Madeline.
Yes, darling.
I actually thought it was, it's not a confirmation or doesn't affirm anything when you say the answer's in the wind, but it leads to hope. So why people sing is their hope within that comes out.
Exactly. It is the sound of hope. It is the sound of peace. Because when we're together, we're not in conflict. Then we're not pushing against each other. So this sound can be not just a symbol of something, it can be actually something that is lived. I lived a moment of peace. I lived a moment of caring. I lived a moment of unanimity of spirit. Yesterday, Peter came to this place. We were at John Jay, and I lived a moment of that feeling that was shared at that march. And it is a feeling of togetherness, unity, openness of heart. Let's try that again, the answer, my friend. The answer answer, my friend, nice, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Now a little louder. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. And now I could say, let's go out and march on the administration building that's not allowing kids to eat porridge at 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever they're doing that's stupid. So you have a little bit of a sense of this. Now, that kind of sharing, it's not intellectual sharing, although there is intellect involved, is very, very important to have as part of movements for change and movement for social justice, where people feel connected. Not just there's a leader and the leader's got something to say, but we have something to say together. The empowerment of individuals, grassroots individuals. So you're sitting there and you're saying, hey, I just did something. I cannot make that sound. I don't care how good I am, how many American Idol contests anybody wins, they can't do that. The only people who can do that are the people who ultimately make the changes. Changes will not hold unless people embrace them. That's why we're saying, in order to make peace in the Middle East, it has to come not just from policy and leadership, it has to be in the hearts of the people. And that's one of the things we realized. If we want to have equity and fairness in the United States vis-a-vis people of color, we have to shift the culture so that people actually say, hey, I'm with you. We can be brothers and sisters. We can be friends. We can accept and appreciate each other. We don't have to separate into groups whereby you are inferior and I am superior. Feeling good is not a zero-sum game. In other words, if some people are feeling this good and other people are not feeling well, and these people down here feel better, that doesn't mean these people have to feel worse. We can all feel better. And we can all experience more justice and freedom. Now, mic check. I'd like you to learn the words of a chorus of another song that relates to this course, to this school, and to this class. Here they are. Please say the words I'm sharing louder, much louder, even louder. Very good. Why are some of you looking at me rather than saying the words after I say them? Is it because you have gone to sleep? Or you have lost faith in your magic dragon? Okay. Here are the words. Have you been to jail for justice? I want to shake your hand. 'Cause sitting in and lying down are ways to take a stand. Have you sung a song for freedom? Or marched the picket line? Have you been to jail for justice? Then you're a friend of mine. Was it Caesar Chavez or Rosa Parks that day? Some say Dr. King or Gandhi that set them on their way. No matter who your mentors are, it's pretty plain to see that if you've been to jail for justice, you're in good company. Have you been to jail for justice? I wanna shake your hand, 'cause sitting in and lying down are ways to take a stand. Have you sung a song for freedom, or march the picket line? Have you been to jail for justice? Then you're a friend of mine. Have you been to jail for justice? I wanna shake your hand, 'cause sitting in and lying down are ways to take a stand. Have you sung a song for freedom, or march the picket line? Have you been to jail for justice? Then you're a friend of mine. Well, you law-abiding citizens, come listen to this song. 'Cause laws were made by people, and people can be wrong. Once unions were against the law, but slavery was fine. Women were denied the vote, and children worked the mine. The more you study history, the less you can deny it. A rotten law stays on the books till folks with guts defy it. I say folks with guts defy it. I said folks with guts defy it. Have you been to jail for justice? I wanna shake your hand, 'cause sitting in line are ways to take a stand. Have you sung a song for freedom, or march the picket line? Have you been to jail for justice? Then you're a friend of mine. Well, the law's supposed to serve us, and so the police. But when the system fails, it's up to us to speak our piece. We must be ever vigilant for justice to prevail. So get courage from your convictions and let them haul you off to jail. Have you been to jail for justice? I wanna shake your hand, 'cause sitting and lying down are ways to take a stand. Have you sung a song for or march the picket line, or march the picket line? Have you been to jail for justice? Then you're a friend of mine. Have you been to jail for justice? Have you been to jail for justice? Have you been to jail for justice? Then you're a friend of mine. Now, let me ask you, how many of you heard somebody talk about what is the case in point that I have? Hang on. Oh, how many of you have any of you heard about Bitter 70 Tim DeChristopher? Tim DeChristopher. What he did was he went into an auction of land in front of the Bureau of Land Management, or put on by the Bureau of Land Management. These were lands near Canyonlands National Park and in Utah, that were Arches National Park, and he's an environmental activist. So he was picketing, and he wanted to stop this sale because this was actually an illegal auction. It was in the last days of the Bush administration, and they hadn't gone through the proper processes. It was a kind of a gift to the oil and gas people, to give them the rights to buy this land very cheaply. And he went in and he wanted to stop it. And he went in and somebody looked at him and he said, "Are you here to bid?" And he said, "Why, yes." And they gave him a paddle that had the number 7 on it, 70. And he sat down and he saw these lands going up for sale. And one of them, he realized right away, it was $10 an acre. It was, ridiculous. So he started bidding. $1,800,000 later, he had won a lot of land. He didn't have any money, however. So the government brought charges against him. Now, he did this as an act of what is called civil disobedience. Does anybody know what civil disobedience is? Raise your hand if you do. What's civil disobedience? What is civil disobedience?
This is when you break the law conscientiously, are willing to take the punishment, and do it publicly for a just cause.
And why do you do that?
For a just cause.
For a just cause. And he felt that by interrupting this auction and preventing these lands from going on sale, he was going to do something to prevent a greater harm from occurring, which is global warming, because part of what is bringing us global warming, that's why he's an environmental activist, is the continuing pursuit of extracting fossil fuels at this furious rate. So, now, how many of you would think that you would have heard a lot of people say, he broke the law, he's got to pay the price, he's got to be punished? How many of you think you might have heard people say that? How many of you heard that? He broke the law. Raise your hands high. Let's see, the people who didn't, raise your hands. Raise your hand if you didn't raise your hand. I'm going to ask you again then, because if I see somebody who didn't raise your hand, I'm going to ask you why. Raise your hand if you think that you have heard somebody say, he broke the law, he's got to pay the price. Okay. Now, Peter, Paul, and Mary got arrested in front of the South African embassy intentionally. We broke the law. If you stand in front of that line, you break the law. You're not allowed to stand there. And you go into the area that is designated. You're not allowed to demonstrate. We did it because we wanted to demonstrate our commitment to the anti-apartheid movement, right? The anti-apartheid movement. Who knows what the anti-apartheid movement was? Raise your hand. All right, somebody who hasn't answered. Who hasn't answered? Raise your hand and knows what the anti-apartheid movement is. Who knows what, but hasn't already spoken? Okay. Okay, somebody over here. Thank you. Pass it over. Why would Peter, Paul, and Mary get arrested together? What's the anti-apartheid movement?
Okay, I wasn't sure which question you wanted me to
Yes,
respond to.
yes.
Anti-apartheid movement. Apartheid in South Africa was the forced separation of Black Africans and white Africans, language.
Right.
And the whites held the political and social power over Black Africans and forced them into slavery, really.
A kind of slavery. Mm-hmm. Certainly They had to live in separate areas. They didn't have rights, and that was called apartheid. And the United States had a boycott of South Africa. And in order to support that, we went there. And what did we do to get arrested? We crossed the line, and guess what we did? Peter, Paul, and Mary. We were accompanied by my daughter, who was 14 years old with green hair, her mother, Mary's mother, two seminarians. What do you think we did? We sang. And what do you think we sang? What?
If I had a hammer.
No, actually, but close. Good guess. What else? What else do you think we sang? What's the most sacred song of the movements? We Shall Overcome. Thank you. We sang, we shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. And then we sang the next verse, we shall all be free. Try it with me. We shall all be free. Again. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. And we sang that, and the police came and said, you have to stop singing. You're breaking the law. Well, how many of you think we should have gone to jail for that? Well, a lot of people did. But in this case, over 3,000 people, including members of the U.S. Senate and the Congress, got arrested together because there is something called civil disobedience, which is a very important part of our system of justice, where you do something that it doesn't hurt anybody. But what it does is it says, I'm standing up for something I believe in. How many of you believe if somebody goes to jail, breaks the law, that they should go to jail or be punished? Raise your hands. How many of you have been taught in this school that when you break the law, you get punished? You go to school, you have to pay the price. Yeah. Okay, let me deposit something for you. Here we are, where you're a freedom rider, okay? You get on a bus, and it's against the law in Alabama to ride in the front of the bus if you're a person of color, right? In Alabama, it's against the law. You start in the bus in Washington, D.C., and according to the national law, you can be in the front of the bus, right? So you're riding down this bus, you're a freedom rider, you're a person of color or not a person of color, and you're riding and you're riding and you're riding, and you're not breaking the law, and somebody comes on the bus and says, and you're not in Alabama yet, you're in Delaware, okay? Somebody says, okay, you in the front of the bus, you're breaking the law. You say, no, we're not, we're in Delaware, it's not against the law. Okay. Oh, I guess you don't have to go to jail. Now, You pass into Alabama and they wrench you off the bus, they beat you, they set dogs upon you, they break your bones and they throw you into jail. How many of you think you should have been thrown into jail for sitting in the front of the bus? You broke the law. What's the matter? You go to jail. How dare you say you shouldn't go to jail? One of you tell me, why shouldn't you go to jail? Why? Tell me why. Why? Okay, good. Go ahead.
I don't believe that every law that's broken is worth going to jail for.
Exactly. The whole point is, there was a time when it was illegal for women to vote. You broke the law. You go to jail. Oh, it's time? Oh, heck. All right. Well, I'm going to wind up because I didn't realize that I forgot that I had a time limit. But here is the point. That's the song, Have You Been to Jail for Justice? All these leaders, Cesar Chavez, Rosa Parks, she broke the law. She got on the bus and she sat in front. Laws change. Your job is not to observe the law, but make sure that laws are fair. That's your job. You're going to be in criminal justice. Yes, you have a responsibility to say that's the law. But your other responsibility is to say, is this a just law? Laws change. How many of you are growing grass in your apartment? Okay, let's say half of you are growing grass in your apartment. All the men here are growing grass in your apartment. All right? Now I'm going to ask you. I'm telling you, that's the condition of this discussion. All of you who are growing grass in your apartment, raise your hands. Okay. All of you who are not growing grass in your apartment, raise your hands. Okay. All of you who are in jail now for growing grass, and there are hundreds of thousands of you for having marijuana or distributing, all of you, you stay in jail. All of you who just broke that law but live in the state of Washington, or the state of Colorado, guess what? It's not the law anymore. Guess what? It was the law once that people of color could not vote. If you demonstrated against that and passed over that line and linked arms and sang, "We shall overcome," are you being disloyal to America? You broke the law. If you think you are being disloyal to America, raise your hand. If you think you are standing up for what's best in America, called justice, beyond the law, justice, raise your hand. If you're not sure and you really want to get an F, raise your hand. Okay, essentially what I've come to tell you is this: that in order to be on the side of justice, we need to get our hearts together. It's not just a matter of our brains. Music can help do that. I've tried to explain to you how that factored into my life. That is still the case. And if you, in your efforts to do your work in the criminal justice system, think of yourself not just as a person following orders, but a person who thinks about justice and fairness, then you will be on the side of what I consider to be making this nation great. And I hope that you will bear that in mind as the years pass and you sing Puff the Magic Dragon, and remember that Puff was not about marijuana. And you've heard it from the dragon's father's mouth. Thank you all. Yes, any questions? Yes. You can all go if you want, or you could stay for questions.
Hold on.
As a tribute to the late Peter Seeger, could you sing "If I Had a Hammer"?
No, if I had a hamburger, because I'm hungry. Here we go. I'm going to sing it for you, but I'm not going to sing it in the back of the microphone. I'm going to sing it over here. Well, I've still got a hammer, and I've still got a bell, and I've still got a song to sing all over this land. It's still the hammer of justice. It's still the bell of freedom. It's still the song about love between the brothers and the sisters all over this land. Pete Seeger wrote this with Lee Hayes. It's the other song we sang at the March on Washington in 1963, and I sing it today. Yes, and not all laws are just. I had a hammer, I had a hammer in the morning, a hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, a hammer out a warning, I'd hammer out love between the brothers and the sisters. Over this land, 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 land. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. I'd ring it out danger, I'd ring it out a warning, I'd ring it out love between my brothers and my sisters. Oh, over this land, 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 land. If I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, sing it in the evening, all over this land. I'd sing out danger, I'd sing it out a warning, I'd sing it out love between the brothers and the sisters. Over this land. Well, I've got a hammer and I've got a bell and I've got a song to sing all over this land. It's the hammer of justice. It's the bell of